All right, welcome back to the How You Slice It podcast. Today, my guest is Robert, and we're talking all about Detroit-style pizza. He started right before COVID, built his business with his brother and his dad, learned from Shawn Randazzo, who kind of started the whole Detroit-style pizza craze 10 or 15 years ago. Sadly, has passed away. But he talks about that memory and how he's related to Shawn and how Shawn helped him get started and how he became a top 50 pizzeria in the country and about marketing, phones, the internet, hiring, working with a small team in a small location with Takeout-Only, all of that on the How You Slice It podcast. Let's get right into it. All right, Robert, thank you for joining me on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me, Bruce. I appreciate the invite, man.
Talking a little bit before the podcast got started, I'm like, you know what, let's stop and kind of reconvene while we record that because you have an interesting story about where you are and how you got started in the pizza business. So give everybody a little background about like name your business and then like how'd you get started.
Yeah, so we're Palazzo di Pizza. We're based out of Royal Oak, Michigan. It's funny because like everyone's always saying, they take the biggest city, obviously, so it's Detroit. So everyone's from Detroit around here, but we're in Royal Oak, which is 15, maybe 10 minutes north of Detroit.
Yeah.
So we're like just in the suburbs, and we're in a neighborhood, so we have like a really nice community around us. But we started in 2019 in March. And pretty much how we got into the business was Shawn Randazzo, obviously one of the biggest pushers for Detroit style pizza, and had such an influence on the community. He happened to be our cousin. And for the longest time, my dad was kept telling him, was just like, hey, stop giving your secrets out. Like, we want to open one up. Let's do something good around here. And obviously, Shawn being the guy he was, everyone knows it. But he was like the biggest, I don't want to call him a cheerleader for it, but he was such like a big part of it, and he wanted to grow it as much as he possibly could. And the funniest thing is when he started doing all his pizza competitions before the World Pizza Championship on the Expo, he was competing in a bunch of the ones that were out in Cleveland and all around in Michigan. And when he went there, he was bringing Detroit style pizza with him to all of these contests, and there was no square pizzas there.
Oh,
And he
wow.
was thinking, how crazy is this that I'm 2 hours outside of Detroit and people are looking at me crazy for bringing a rectangle pan with me here?
Huh.
And obviously, he started winning all these competitions. He started realizing he had something, and he was the type of person where like he wanted it to be everywhere. It wasn't something that he wanted to gatekeep for himself and for it to be a Michigan secret. He just wanted it to be everywhere. So when he finally brought it to the pizza competition with him back in 2012, and he splashed in that game and he ended up winning. That's when all the big guys started realizing like, oh shit, this is something that could possibly be, the next New York style, the Chicago, everything in between. So that's kind of how we ended up getting into it, because my dad finally reached out to him one time after we had saved some money and just like, hey, we have an idea. We want to open up this pizzeria here at this spot. And that's what we ended up doing. We actually wanted to call it Randazzo's at first. We wanted to name it after him, but I'm not sure what the problem was. But I don't know. I mean, three guys coming into it asking to use your last name for something, and you're such a big guy, and so he was just like, maybe that's not the best idea. So
Yeah.
my dad ended up using Palazzo, which was his old construction building company, because he was a construction worker for 35 years. He was a general contractor, and that's how we ended up. That was the path our family took. They were all, masonists. They did masonry. They did brickwork. He was really into that type of aspect his whole life. And then finally, when everything kind of went down the tubes back in '08, it hit Michigan really hard in the building.
Yeah.
So my dad took a break from all that and finally had some money saved up, and he reached out to our cousin and was just like, hey, we should try to do something here. And that's how we ended up partnering up and opening up this spot in Royal Oak.
That's great. I love Shawn. I mean, I met Shawn probably 2016 ish. I had him on the podcast when we first got started. Super nice guy. I think I was like super
Yeah.
nervous back then. It was like when I first started doing a podcast. Never really
Yeah,
interviewed anybody before. I'm just a pizza guy doing a podcast, and he was so nice and
sure.
made it so easy for me. And we were friends just up until I think the last podcast we did with him was 2020, right around the time he
Yeah.
had a tough time in his life, and obviously
Yeah.
passed away after that.
Yeah, that was really unfortunate. He was, it's funny, growing up, we didn't see my dad's side of the family a whole lot, but we obviously knew all of them. And the first time we actually got to like sit down and meet Shawn was we went to Detroit Style Pizza Company, one of their locations. I believe it was the Roseville location before they had turned it into production. And we had finally sat down, and we actually brought our own, like, Italian sausage, and we wanted to, hey, can you make this pizza for us? And he did all that for us, and it was cool. So that was one of the very first times I remember meeting him. So I know we used to see him when we were younger,
Yeah.
but that was the first time I met him, like, as a teenager, and actually, wanted to kind of see what he was doing. Because I kept hearing they were always like, yeah, you guys know your cousin's this huge pizza guy. Like, people know him worldwide. He goes around the country opening up pizza shops for people. He helps them learn. He teaches them his recipe. He shows them how to do things the right way. And I was just kind of like, pizza, I didn't really understand it to the great length that he had really like touched the whole community by. And finally, as we got older, and my dad brought the idea up of opening up the shop, that's when we kind of started seeing him a little bit more. He came by our shop, showed us how to make the dough, showed us how to make the pizzas. We went to his location, we were making pizzas there with him, all of that stuff. So that was kind of the way that we had got introduced to pizza. I don't think it was anything that was something me and my brother got into. When I say we, I should have said this too. So it's me, my dad, and my brother. We
You're all
opened up the
partners?
shop. So yeah, correct. And then me, my dad, and my brother are here. And so when we first got into it, I'm sure like we didn't ever expect coming out of high school, like, yeah, this is the dream. This is what we're going to be doing. It's weird how it just kind of falls into people's hands sometimes.
Yeah, that's the best part about the pizza industry and doing these podcasts is like you never really know what someone's going to say, how they got into it, and
Yeah.
it's usually a unique story. Even if it's a family-run business, it doesn't always mean the kids are going to want to do it.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's always funny because, like, I think I grew to like it a lot. I'm not sure what I had expected when I first did it because I'm 26 right now. And when we first had the idea of opening it, I was 19. So I was pretty young coming into it, and I had no idea what we were getting our hands into being a
You never
business
worked in a pizza
owner.
shop before, like at all?
No, nothing at all.
So this
Yeah.
is your
So I
first
think
experience.
first experience in the pizza shop. So
Wow.
I worked for Lifetime Fitness with my brother and my sister. We all worked in our like little department we had there, and that was my first job pretty much. And then right when we were figuring out what we were doing here, we kind of told them, hey, we're gonna have another job in 6 months from now, a year from now, and then we transitioned from doing stuff like that. I was working kids' birthday parties and stuff, like blowing
Yeah.
up the bounce houses and like setting stuff up, and then went from doing that straight over to this. And it was one of the very first times working in food, and it was like one of those things at first I was like, dude, I hate it. I hate working in food. I hate people coming in being dicks. You tell them 25 minutes, they walk in 12, and you're just like, I told you 25 minutes, and here you are, and now I seem like the bad guy because I'm trying to, like, hey, you still got 15 minutes. And I don't know. It was one thing you learn, and you're like, "What the hell, man?"
Yeah. There is definitely a learning curve there, especially if you've never been in the restaurant industry. Even the pizza industry is different compared to the restaurant industry because it's more of a
Sure.
quick service thing where people have set
Right.
expectations because there's pizza shops all over the country and they expect them all to be exactly the same. It couldn't be further from the
Yeah.
truth.
It's so crazy how people come on in, and reminds you. This is funny. So where we're at, we're on 11 Mile, which is it's in between a downtown and then a main street. So we're within a mile of us. We have a standalone pizza place off of Main Street that only sells slices, and then in between us and them is Hungry Howie's and Domino's. So we opened up literally in between. Like, if I were to go out to our front door right now and turn my camera, you'd see Domino's from the front of our building.
Okay.
And then if I were to go down a little bit further, you'd see Hungry Howie's. So it was kind of a ballsy thing to do. And at first, I was like unsure about it. I was like, I'm not sure how this is going to be. But we had faith in everything, and Sean obviously trusted in us. So
Right.
we were kind of like, let's do this thing. Let's make it as best as we could do it, and ride it as long as we can, and let's load this thing up because people around here were being deprived of good pizza. I mean, the stuff we hear about the other shop up the road, and I don't want to slander anybody or talk bad about anyone stuff because obviously it's a hard thing to do.
Right.
But they're open pretty late. They're a downtown slice when because there's a bunch of bars, bunch of clubs. So 3 a.m. when everyone's leaving, that place is still open. They're serving slices. So how good of a pizza place is at 3 a.m. downtown serving slices, I don't know. I don't go over there, but from what we've heard, everyone's like, "What you guys are doing, you guys are doing a good thing." So keep doing what we're doing, and that's kind of what we've been doing, and just keeping our head focused on the main goal.
That's great. And I mean, there's different styles of pizza shops. So like that one that's open till 3 a.m. is more just like there's like, I feel like there's categories of pizza shops. There's like people who want to do it really really well, and then there's people who got into the pizza business to like run a business, and like the pizza is
Right.
kind of part of it because that's the product that they sell, but they look at it as more of a profit and loss kind of thing than it is like I want to make the best possible pizza.
Right. Yeah, and what's funny is actually you brought that up. I'm not sure which podcast I was just listening to, because the past couple of weeks I've been really like diving into the podcast again. I listen to them while I'm working out, and I forgot whose it was. I want to say it was Rob's from Talio, but you guys might have been talking about that one. I'm not sure if it was that one or another one, but you guys were pretty much saying that what the difference is between, learning how to open up a pizza shop and running it's kind of like one thing, but then the whole business side to it is like a completely different thing. You could have the best pizza in the world, but if everything on the back end with your business isn't being ran correctly, it's kind of like, everything's not good. And that was a huge thing that I had to learn really quickly, because, we came into the business and we started working the shop as, I made the dough every day. I run the POS. I run one of the ovens. I make the pizzas. Like I did everything, and still do everything to this day. We don't have many workers with us right now, so we still do it all. But and then on top of it, just over the last 2 3 years, when I kind of started enjoying what we did a little bit more, I started taking more care and more like I need to start doing more on the back end. And that's when I started learning, the social media, the marketing, where your money's going, what kind of profit and loss do you have? How much stuff are you throwing away at the end of the week? Where's your money going? You're checking every single order that walks in through the door. It's a lot more than just, do you think you turn the light on and you just pump out pizzas?
Yeah, people take it as a like a badge of honor, which I used to do myself back in the day when I operated. It was like how many pizzas you made, and then I've come to realize like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. Like okay, how much money did you make profit wise at the end of the day? I know businesses that sell 150 pizzas a day, making more money open 4 days a week than places that sell 500 pizzas a day and they're open 12 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah, and I think that was another thing that it's funny you brought that up as well, because that was another thing that that brought those. It kind of came to me when you were talking about it. It came back finally. But yeah, you're right. Honestly, that was one of the other things you had mentioned during that podcast, and you couldn't have been more right about it. Because at first, I think when we were just opening up, I was very focused on like, obviously, the more pizzas you sell, the more money you make, and that was like the goal. And it was just like, all right, pump out 150 pizzas every day, everything will be good. And then you kind of start doing it, and you're like, well, I did 150 pizzas every day, but why isn't everything? Why am I not living this famous and rich life that everybody aspires to be? And you're like, I'm still in the same car I was driving 8 years ago. Where's all this money going? So it's funny that you brought that up, because I think that's a lot of it's an aspect that a lot of people just look over, and they take for granted. I think it's a huge thing that they need to go ahead and like look more into. I think it would help a lot of people.
Yeah, pizza guys are great, and they really want to make, for the most part, right? The people we talk to on the podcast really want to make a good pizza, and that's definitely part of it. But you got to know your numbers. Like if you're running a business, like you have to know exactly to the penny where all your money goes. Like how much money's coming in,
Yeah.
how much money's going out, how much does every single ingredient going on that pizza cost me? Because a lot of times people are like, they do generic numbers and they're like, oh, I can sell that pizza for $20 and it cost me about this much. And,
Right.
I want to make $5 a pizza or whatever the profit margin is. And then one thing changes in your recipe, like flour bag goes up or cheese
Yeah.
goes up, and you're like, that totally like takes all of that work you did for the numbers and throws it out the window. And if you don't adjust and you don't check those numbers often,
Mhm.
you can go 4 or 5 months making no money.
Yeah, and I think that was a cheese was it's funny you said cheese. Cheese was one of the crazy things, because we opened up just before COVID. So obviously everything before COVID was kind of like, oh man, this is kind of easy. Everything is good. The prices were down, and then all of a sudden, the price on cheese was like, I remember we got one of our bills from one of our wholesalers, and we were like, holy shit, like we got to call them right now. Like there's got to be a mistake. There's no way this is what it was. And one of the funny things was too is salad, lettuce from our suppliers. Dude, that was one that went from being, 30 bucks, 40 bucks to a case, to it jumped to like $130 at one point. And we were like, oh my God, like, is it even worth selling salads at this point? And if not, like, you have to hike the prices up on them. And, salads aren't the most filling thing. So it's like people come here, they want pizza, they don't care for the salad, but you don't want to soak someone on like an $18 salad that only feeds three people, you know? But that was one of the ones where if you aren't paying attention to everything coming in and what the prices are on things, it's really easy to step away and realize that the past 3 months I haven't been making anything on this, or I'm only making half of what I thought I was. And it's one of those things that as I got older and started realizing I need to put my head more into this place, I started realizing the things that were happening and the reason why things weren't going the way we had planned they were. Just double checking over things and finally really diving on the back end of stuff. Me and my dad sit down and always take all of our bills we get, look to see how they change from the prior month, and it's something that we do often just to really make sure that everything is going the right way and the money that's coming in is being spent the right way and we're making the same amount of money because it's really easy to get away from that.
Yeah, for sure. And you can't help people with jobs or growth in your company if you
Yeah.
don't have a profitable business.
Right. That's like the thing at the end of the day, because I think it was a cool thing that hit me later on as well is so we have it's me, my dad, and my brother. And then, obviously we've had friends come and go in between, people who just graduated from college, they couldn't find a job with their degree. They're like, hey, I need money. Can I work for you guys
Which is
Friday,
crazy to me.
Saturday? And we're like, yeah, sure. And the entire time, we're sitting there and we had the busy shop on Fridays and Saturdays. And they're like, oh, this is what it's like, that's cool, like good for you guys. And they end up staying for a year, and then finally they're like, I finally got a job with my degree, I'm going to go ahead and leave. So we've had a few people in between, a lot of friends. We've only hired two people outside of like our immediate friends and
Oh,
family
wow.
group. Yeah, so how that came is we have one guy, Joey, and then my brother's girlfriend helps us out. Joey, he worked across the street from us during COVID. They closed down his job, so he was doing an office job type thing, working for like wedding booth, like weddings, and they did like photo booths, stuff like that. And during COVID, it was deemed non-essential, so they closed their office. And he was like, "Hey, and he was a customer of ours. He was one of the very first people to ever walk in our doors because our buildings faced each other. And he walked in the door and was just like, "Dude, you guys have a good pizza." And finally, we got to know him pretty well. Then 9 months later, he lost his job, and he's like, "Ironically, I managed one of the higher pizza chains in Michigan for 7, 8 years. I know how to do this stuff." And the funny thing was, we found out that he did that was because coming up to Halloween in our first year, he was just like, "You guys ready to get your ass kicked?" And we're like,
You had
"For
no
what?"
idea.
And he's just like, "Dude, Halloween, man." And we're like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And he's like, "Dude, you guys are in for a treat." So he's like, "Let me come in and help you guys, and I'll show you." So he came in, helped us out, incredibly large that day. And it was funny. So ever since then, he was a good guy, and he ended up staying on board with us for the last 5, 6 years now. Yeah,
That's
great
funny.
guy.
I never thought of that. Like I always talk to pizza people, and I've been in the business my whole life. Like I grew up in the pizza business. Like my first job was in pizza, and it's like Halloween, New Year's Eve, like the Super Bowl,
Yeah,
the day before Thanksgiving. Like those are
yep,
all just like known names, known days as being really busy and crazy for
sure.
pizza operators. But if you're not from that business, you have no idea.
Had no idea.
Yeah.
Literally had no idea. We got our asses kicked. And the funniest thing was, is looking back on it now, I remember one of the very first Fridays we had been open. And, obviously you've ran one, we're running one. When we first opened up, I remember Shawn telling us, like, yeah, there's going to be Fridays and Saturdays where you guys end up doing, 5, 6 grand. And we were like, how the hell do you do that? Right? There's no way. Okay. And then I remember there was a Friday we had back when it was just me, my dad, and my brothers when we first opened up. And I think we did like $700 that day. And I remember me and my brother were like laying on the floor, like, dude, we got our ass kicked, man. Like, how the hell do they think you're going to do 5, 6 grand here? And eventually you start realizing it and you start doing things over and over again and you kind of start getting the hang of things. And now one of us could do that, if for some reason it was slow that day and that's what we did, one of us could do that by ourselves, if we really had to do it. But yeah, it was one of those things. And then ironically too, that we were talking about the day before Thanksgiving, we always know that's going to be a busy day because we're in like a pretty populated neighborhood. A lot of the kids around here, they grow up, they go to Michigan, they go to Michigan State, they go to Central, they go to Western. Those are kind of like the four main colleges around here. They're all within 2 hours, and all the kids come back home because we're in Metro Detroit, and that's where like majority of Michigan's population lives in Metro Detroit in our area. So everyone flocks home, downtown Detroit, downtown Royal Oak. Those are the two places everybody goes to no matter what. So we were getting our asses kicked that weekend. We knew we had Thursday off. We were like, let's take Thursday off because it was obviously Thanksgiving. That's what we always do. Like, that's another thing I'll talk about too. But we took the Thursday off, and I remember we were eating dinner at our aunt's house on Thursday, and we were like, "Damn, a Friday off after Thanksgiving, like that sounds so nice." And we were contemplating, "Hey, should we take one more day off? We haven't had, this many days off and this long." And we were like, "No, we can't." And obviously, everyone's expecting us to be there. It's a long weekend for everybody. Everyone's already home. People are probably expecting us to be there. So we did, and then sure as shit, 8:30 rolls around that Friday night, a half an hour before we closed, and Dave Portnoy walked in.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we were this close to closing the day he came by, and it kind of just goes to show where, if you ever feel like you're burned out, if you ever feel like you can't do something, it's kind of like, you never know who's going to walk in the door next. So that was a funny thing that we just, stuck to it and did. But I remember getting our ass kicked all that weekend, and that was another thing that was another day of the year where we plan our asses off now. I ask friends who worked with us before to come back and help us, and typically they all do. So it's actually nice that we have people that still know how to run our shop, even though they're off doing their
Right.
other things now.
Explain how your shop works. Is it delivery, takeout, or what is it?
Yeah. So in right now we're only takeout. We're running out of a 1,600 square foot spot. So a little bit about us is that in 2019 we opened up. It's funny. Our property is two buildings. So there's the front building and the back building, and then the front building is 1,000 square feet total, and it's split almost in half. It's 600 square feet and 400 square feet, and then the building behind us was 1,600 square feet, and there was a podcast studio in it.
Oh, wow.
Ironically, yeah. So
Is it
when
still there?
we were no, so actually,
Oh.
when we were in the front building, we only had 600 square feet. So when we first opened up, we were only running out of a 600 square foot shop.
Is that the
And
photo on your Instagram? So if you go, if people are listening, they go to your Instagram, Palazzo de Pizza, Royal Oak. There's a photo pinned on the top. Like, is that where you are now, or is that what it was?
Correct. So that's the new spot we moved into.
Okay.
So in front of that spot, like if I were to take that picture and just turn my camera like this, that front building is where we were. I'll have to send you it, or I'll have to find a picture, because I know someone out there took a picture of both our buildings in the same picture. Because the front building was small, and we only had one four-deck oven in there, and we could only fit 32 pizzas in it. And we got to the point when we first opened up and we were selling out of pizzas because we only had a double door fridge. We had one double door fridge, a single door fridge that held all of our salad stuff. And then we had our prep table was actually a salad prep table. And it was, I'm not kidding you, it was probably like 4 or 5 feet long. And we were using cheese bins out of like the third pans, and we were changing our cheese every freaking 6 minutes, and we were like, this is not good.
Wow, that's like a
We
lot. Yeah, you got to go through that so quick. You need like a big
it,
bucket.
yeah, so that's what we ended up doing. So finally in 2019, 2020, we started getting really busy. COVID was like a blessing and a curse. I know it's like it was a shitty time for a lot of people. I know a lot of people struggled during that time. But we, as a takeout pizzeria,
Yeah,
we did well. We never closed. We
you were
worked
built
right through
for
it.
the takeout aspect.
Yeah, that's how we wanted to do it. We were built for it. We kept doing it. We stuck to it. We stayed open the entire time and did fairly well. And at that point, we realized we can't be in this spot if we wanted to grow. So during that time, the podcast studio behind us, deemed non-essential, they closed. So we were like, holy shit, there's a spot behind us, 1,600 square feet, just popped up. All we have to do is turn it into a kitchen. So we were pretty much gutted the whole thing. Took us about a year and a half, 2 years, and we got that going in the middle of 2020. So in 2023 was when we finally were able to open this building that we're in now. But so many headaches, so much shit to do with the city, licensing, small things that people have no idea, air balance tests for the vents. It's like the stupidest stuff that they just soak you on. But we finally got it all done, and we finally opened up back here. So we went from being in a 600 square foot spot to completely outgrowing that and having to get into a brand new building within a year and a half of opening, maybe a little less than that.
Oh wow. And you do
Yeah,
like so you're all takeout. I
all
see a little
takeout.
table.
So
I see one little table in that photo.
yeah, so we're all takeout. The laws here about eating in are kind of funky. I'm not sure if they're universal. We are only takeout, and we just started doing delivery about 6, 7 months ago. We
Yeah.
had DoorDash when we first opened up because we knew we weren't going to have a driver because me, my dad, and my brother were the only ones there, and we knew one of us couldn't slide. And we finally used DoorDash, and we absolutely hated it. Drivers were coming in, they were taking 2 orders. They would pick up 2 orders, and one of them would be done for 20 minutes while the next one was going to be done for, not done for another 15, 20 minutes, and they would sit there and wait. It was kind of a crappy thing that was going on. So we completely got rid of them. And then finally, during COVID, a lot of the businesses that were open in downtown Royal Oak, a lot of them closed and none of them ever came back. And they were all sit down restaurants and they were kind of these big places that had big names for a while. So we wanted to make sure that we were going to cover our own ass pretty much. And we were like, we're going to be takeout no matter what, because we don't want the state government or anything to be able to tell us, at this point, if anything ever happens again, your business is deemed non-essential. You have to close your sit down. You're going to be focusing on takeout. I know pizza is a good thing for takeout, but just relying on your business up in the hands of someone who's not working in your shoes, or running the business that you have, it just kind of, it was something in the back of our minds always. So we were like, we're not going to do anything with a sit down just yet. Obviously the goal is one day to have something nice like that, have a big spot. But after all that had happened, it kind of turned us all off like a lot, because at one point they could just say, hey, here's a new pandemic. You can't have this many people sitting in your restaurant. This is closed. This is done. So be it.
Yeah, so COVID was a weird time for all businesses, a lot of businesses, but like you were kind of set up for it perfectly with your takeout strategy, and
Yeah.
thank God for that, right? Because like, what a horrible time to
Yeah.
start a business right before that.
Right. It was awful. And at first, it was crazy at first, because it was kind of like, I remember in January, December, or January, February, everyone's like, dude, there's this weird thing going around. And we were kind of like, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, right. And finally it was like the first case hit New York, the first case hit here, the first place in this. Then we're in Oakland County. I remember seeing it was like the first case in Oakland County finally. And I was like, dude, what the hell is going on? And finally, it became the thing that it was, and we had to adapt to it. We had to wear masks inside of our business, and I'm working with my dad and my brother. We all live together. None of us are sick,
right.
but we all had to wear masks. We put up a freaking sneeze guard thing on our we're in our
Crazy.
arch where we do all of our stuff. So it was kind of a weird time, because you kind of got away from like the aspect of like knowing people and people come in with their masks on, and you lose like the friendly encounter from it all. But finally, eventually, everything kind of cooled down. People stopped, caring so much. They were like, well, I'm just going to go ahead and not wear my mask. I'm going to go ahead and, finally, at some point, it was just like, okay, the mask can be thrown away. We can move on. But we saw there was a lot of great businesses that were open in the neighborhood next to us, and or right down the road from us, that were open for 20, 30 years. And they closed because they couldn't handle the capacity of whatever it was, 60%. And they weren't doing enough business. So, hey, now you have this great restaurant people have known for 30 years, and you want to go and sit in there, and they have great food, good atmosphere, good drinks. And then all of a sudden, these places are like, well, we're closed for the inside, but you can take our stuff out. It's just like a lot of people came there for the atmosphere. They wanted to watch the football games. They wanted to drink a beer with somebody. They want to have a nice bar snack. And all these places closed. And it's just like crazy to think that these businesses that have survived for 40 years are all being told, you can't do this, you can't do that. And we were just like, well, shit, I'm not going to be one of those businesses. Ours is only going to be takeout. We're going to keep it fast and get people in, get people out. So the table, as you said, the tables and chairs that we have inside, they're just for people who need to sit down and wait 5 minutes, or, kind of sit down, have a seat, wait, whatever, how long. If you want to see what gelato we have, you can go see what gelato you have. The other reason too is just with the city, and they wanted to do it where you have to have X amount of parking spaces for every chair you have. You have to have public restroom, which we don't have. It was just a headache, and we have one bathroom here, and then where it's at, it's tucked in our sink room. So it's just like people, if you had to do it, we would have to set up the whole thing a different way. And we were just like, we're not doing that. We don't want to clean up after people. People have a hard time pushing their damn chair in. It's people want to eat in there. It's like you're going to be cleaning up after them now, and like when's it going to
It's
stop?
very, very true. Yeah, yeah. So do you do all online orders, or do you have phones too?
Yeah, we have phones. We do walk-ins. We have phone orders. We have online. We use Slice, ironically. I see your hat. I know you're partnered over with them. They do a
Yeah,
pretty
we do
damn
quite a
good
bit.
job, honestly.
That's great.
So we have them, and honestly, a lot of orders through Slice. I'd probably say 60-40 maybe for online to call-ins, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit
That's
less. But
great.
yeah, we
Yeah,
do
60/40 is pretty
a
good.
lot of
I used to hate
online.
the phone so much when I was operating. Like I hated the phone. I hated it.
Yeah. No, I think a lot of people do, and it's funny because I always see the jokes of like, "Hey, you need your pizza maker to go answer the phone," and it's just like a caveman. They don't know what the hell they're doing. They don't know how to talk to people. And how we end up getting in is just like, I made the pizzas, I answer the phone, I ran the oven, so like we're flawless, like wherever we're at in this kitchen. And everyone that we've ever brought on, we teach them the same way. Obviously we bring them in and we're like, hey, we need you to do this specific task, but because it gets so damn busy sometimes, like I need you to stop making a salad and you need to go answer the phone. You need to slide and cut and sauce a pizza. If I need you to pull a pizza out of the oven because I'm busy, you need to know how to do that. So we kind of have everyone that we bring in and train, we teach them how to do everything because we just feel like there's more value in leaving someone with just, hey, you're only going to be doing this and this is your job. Because then I feel like you're not like becoming the most of yourself. Like there's a lot more to someone than just, hey, I need you to put cheese on this pizza for 7 hours. Like we bring people in. One of my friends in particular, like he was a quiet kid, but he was outgoing. I knew him a lot, so he opened up to us a lot. But we started throwing him on the phone, we started having him deal with customers, and this kid came out of his shell, and it's just like, dude, that's what we're talking about. Like, I want to see you grow as a person and not just think like I'm going to and from work to make X amount of dollars today. Like, become something of it. Take this with you for the rest of your life. And now he's like a really outgoing kid. He comes in, says what's up to everybody, gives people hugs. It's just he's doing well now. So it's just good to see the shit you see now.
Yeah, I like that. That's true. Yeah, I mean, I like the phone itself, but I was like that pizza maker guy who didn't want to answer the phone at first, and then you get to be comfortable with it after you do it. But to me, it wasn't so much that I hated to answer the phone. It was like it was busy. It's Friday night, like the phone's ringing off the hook. Like, and then you pick up the phone. You're like, "Hey, thanks for calling XYZ Pizza." And they're like, "Hey, what does everybody want? What does everybody want?" And you're
Yeah,
like, "Oh my god, are
dude,
you
it still
serious? It's
happens.
6:30. Can you just like figure that out?" And then call me back.
Still happens, dude. I'm not shitting you, man. It happens all the time. And we get off the phone and we all get a good laugh about it. The way I feel is like I try to be as nice as I can. And obviously, I'm sure you were too. Everyone who does it, you sit there, you
Yeah, of
want to be
course.
as
Yeah,
nice as you can. So it's just like, you're sitting there being polite, you're asking the right questions, even though they're taking 7 minutes to order when normally it takes 30 seconds, right? People come on in, hey, I want this, 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 and that. And as fast as you can click it in, it's the faster you can get them off the phone.
totally.
Because I remember you guys were saying, I'm not sure which one it was on, but you were saying like it used to be when someone called, like you wanted to upsell them, you wanted them to spend more money. But then now it's like you answer the phone and it's just like you get them on and off as quick as you can because your time's valued somewhere else now. So the
Yeah,
quicker
you have
someone
something else
knows
to
their
do.
order, yeah. So now that if someone knows their order quick, it's like most of my conversations with people, hey, thanks for calling Palazzo de Pizza. What can I do for you tonight? It's, hey, can I get this, 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 and that? Can I get your name, phone number? And it's like 45-second phone call. And within a minute of me talking to you, if it's not busy and there's no line, like your food's already being made. But then, you have people who sometimes call and they're just like yelling at people in the house, oh, my kids don't want to eat this. Or my favorite is, hey, I've never been to your shop before. What do you recommend? And I tell them, the double pepperoni is our best seller, or the chicken
Yeah.
pesto, or our new pizza, Nashville hot chicken. And they're just like, yeah, well, I don't want that. It's like, then why'd you ask me, right?
Yeah.
Why'd you ask me? If you knew what you were going to get to begin with, then why'd you ask me?
Yeah.
So those are always good
That's
things that happen. I mean, it
it's
gives you a
totally
laugh.
true. Like, what do you have? What size? Like, how many pieces come on the 16-inch pizza? I'm like, how many pieces do you want? Like, how many pieces of pizza do you want?
Yeah,
We
right.
can cut it
I
into
can cut
whatever
it.
you want. Yeah.
Like literally whatever you want. And it's funny because
Yeah.
the internet's at everyone's hand. So it's just like the questions people ask, you can literally just go look up, right? But some people, they're not afraid to call because I think like in a world that's transitioning to all online orders, and there's places that only do online orders. And in a world where people are so used to not having a human interaction with people anymore, I think it's still nice that someone calls and they're like, hey, this is my first time calling. What is it you guys do? How do you do it? So in my head, I'm like, we grew up. My dad was, we grew up like not in an old school family, but like we were taught traditionally. I'm the youngest of three, and I'm 26, so I caught the end of. I remember the early 2000s. I remember when we didn't have phones in our pockets. I'm still a young, sure, and obviously when I was in middle school, I was like 10, 11, 12. Like I finally got my phone, but that was in '08, '09, I finally had gotten my phone. But the entire time before that, I still remember getting on MSN Messenger and messaging my friends in order to talk to them when I was in elementary school. Like, I remember all that stuff. And now seeing the kids who are graduating in 2025, all these kids are stuck to their phones. All they can do is place an online order. If they do call on the phone, you walk in and like they don't even know how to speak to you. There's an order for, and it's just like, oh man, like this
Yeah,
is
it's true.
bad, man. This is getting bad. So it's nice when people feel like they still can call and like you want to be nice to them. You want to let them know, like, everything. Like you want them to feel safe in this environment. No one's judging you for nothing. That's the other thing, having, such a small group of guys working here. The only people that answer the phone, like I said, is me, my brother, our guy Joey, and my brother's girlfriend. So there's only four of us. So we're all like very well trained, and we talk about it often. Like, hey, this week we're having this fundraiser for this school. Like, please be on top of it. Not that I have to tell people that, but just like, hey, just be really nice to people. Some people, it's their first time coming here. We've been open for 6 years. We've had some great accomplishments, but some people just haven't been by yet. So there's a brand we all represent, and we just want to make sure that we're as nice to everybody who call in, whether it's an online order, they call in, they walk in, all that stuff. So,
Yeah. So what's one thing that if someone's watching this, right, or listening to this podcast and they say, hey, I want to open a pizza shop, like now that you've been doing it for a few years and you've got some pizza mileage under your belt, what would you give them for advice?
yeah, wow. Oh, man, that's a good one. Because, still in my
Your old self who's getting into the business, what would you tell?
yeah, I think learning the pizza first. I mean, it depends on if you're going into a chain, a franchise, however it ends up being. If you're opening up a standalone shop, get into it, really learn the dough, really learn everything else in between, make the pizzas correct. I think having a good neighborhood, I think the right spot is a huge thing. Anyone can open up any pizzeria anywhere, but if you have the right spot with the right group, I think being personable to people, having good relationships with people, when you first open up, that's huge. If I were to go back and tell my 19-year-old self that, I was just thinking about it the other day, like to see how far I've came as a person and how much I've matured and the shit that I stopped doing when I was a kid and I stopped doing now. It's just like I'm such a different person from what I was because obviously when we first opened up, I had no, not that I didn't have interest in it, but it was more like, okay, this is a job, and I wasn't sure of what was happening because I was going to school at the same time. I was in college right down the road, and I finally did that. But I would always say, if you want to stay in school while you did it, do that because you almost need a type of business degree or some type of aspect of like, even if you didn't have a business degree, you can obviously learn everything online. You can learn how to run this stuff, but having guidance of some sort of how to run a business rather than just running your location every day is massive. And I think that took me a while to learn because we just showed up every day. It was like, I know at 12 o'clock we had to be here to open up, and I did. It was nothing to do
Yeah,
with,
yeah,
you have to know how to count the numbers. You have to know when the delivery is coming. You have to know how to check everything. That is one of the biggest things that like I transitioned over from where I started taking a bigger role. I think the business part has to be, one of the main things. Because like we were talking about, if you have a business that's open and you're not following where the money's going, you're going to be open forever and be like, why am I still here? Why can't I hire someone? Why isn't the bank account going up? Well, shit, it's actually dropping after this week. Why does that make sense? Those are the few things that like I think you should really consider and get more education on, and learning a lot from the podcast too. I think that was something that I found helpful because Shawn ended up passing away, like we were talking about, in 2020, and we were only a year and a half into this thing. And not that we couldn't go to, his mom or, our cousin, but his mom or, his daughters or anything like that. But having a podcast to where, if you do want to franchise a store, if you do want to know how to market stuff, if you do want to know how to do this stuff, like there's kind of a layout for you so you can learn. I think that was like a big growth step that I took, was I needed to know how to do more things. And I was sitting here thinking, why isn't our business running 100%? Why do I feel like we're not doing as much as we could do? And I started watching more. I started listening. Text marketing, email marketing, how big social media is nowadays. It's literally the best thing that we have. It's a gift and a curse, obviously, but it's one of the best things that we have. And watching, you obviously, and explaining, it's just crazy to me that people sit there and they're like, oh man, I hate this. I don't want to do this. But here they are, and they're not doing half the shit that you tell them to do. And it's just like, how many times could you just go ahead, listen to what you tell them, and just go do it, try it for 3 months? And if you hate it that much and it doesn't work for you, yeah, maybe you're not in the right business. But I
Yeah.
guarantee you, if you post consistently for 90 days, if you do different things, if you have stuff set up with your people in your business, like good things happen from it. And I was one of the huge things I took away from it. And we were always scared to post on social media. Why? We always felt like you needed something to post about. It had to be this new thing, or we're finally doing this. And then it went from posting once every 3 months to where I'm just like, dude, I know on Tuesdays when I come in, I'm taking a video of every damn pizza that comes out of the oven, and I'm going to have a schedule for it. I'm going to post it on my Monday, get all of them done so I don't got to do it for the rest of the week. And you watch the interactions go up. You start posting about deals. Now that's going up. I know our audience for Instagram and Facebook's completely different, because obviously with Instagram, if your reel gets a bunch of likes, it gets plays, it gets engagements, now it starts going on people's explore feeds, which is great. So now you have people who are following you, but you're offering a deal for your pizzeria, but here you have this guy in New Jersey who follows you. Like, what good is your deal for him out in New Jersey? So now I go on Facebook, where we have our main people in our neighborhood, and we have a great group here. It's called Royal Oak Eats. I'm not sure if anyone will see this in there. I'll post it in there, so hopefully that they get the shout out that they deserve. But it's our like Facebook community, and there's 15,000 people in it, and it's only people in
Wow.
Royal Oak. So we go in there and we're like, hey, this is the deal of the week we have going on. This is what's going on. We have a new pizza coming out. And so I know that on Facebook and Instagram, I share the same reels between the two. But in the private Facebook group, I make sure I post the deals we have going on. I want to cater to the audience that actually is going to use these deals. There's no reason to post about a deal on our Instagram page, because who's going to see it unless there's the 1,000 followers of the people who actually live around here will come do it. Maybe they'll use it, maybe they'll take advantage of it, maybe not. But I know where our audience is, and I think that's another huge thing with your social media, is knowing this is where all my people are who actually live around here, and you need to cater to them the most.
I love that. That was a great answer, because you hit it all right there. And I think it's important too to know where your customers are hanging out online, right? Because everybody just
Right.
gravitates towards Instagram, but that's not necessarily where your customers may be. They may be an older demographic and they are
Right.
on Facebook or in Facebook groups, or younger if it's a college and
Yep.
they're on TikTok or something like that. So it's a great point.
Yep. Absolutely. And that was one of the things too, because I always see you talking about, social media and all that. And I remember, me, it was funny. We had Vine, when I was in middle school, when I was in, growing up, we had Vine. I loved Vine. I would post on it. I would make the stupidest ones. And, a couple of them, hit off 1,000 likes, but I was never like Vine famous, nothing like that. I was just a kid who wanted to post Vines, and all the people around us liked them. And then it's like Vine walked so TikTok could run. I remember being on Instagram in like 2018, 2019, and I would see the ads for TikTok on Instagram. And the ones they were like, people with makeup on singing a song, and I was like, dude, I hate seeing this. Like, I will never do that. So that was a reason why I hated TikTok for so long. And then I'm not kidding you, just about a week ago, I was like, consciously, I need to go on TikTok for our business, because all it takes is one good video to really pop off and blow up, and your business can double next week. So I think that was a huge thing for me to realize. And I kept telling all my brother and the other guy, I'm like, listen, we bought mics. We're going to have some new stuff. I'm like, I'm going to make the TikTok account, and we're going to go ahead and do some stupid shit, because our Instagram and Facebook are all like, it's family friendly. You know, here's a picture of the pizza, you know, there's really nothing bad, but we're just like, you know what, let's go ahead on TikTok, show the backside of it. Cause everyone knows, they're like, oh, those guys at Palazzo de Pizza are super nice. They're super friendly. We love seeing them. But then it's like, they're going to go ahead and see TikTok and be like, oh, those guys like to fuck around a little bit. And people like that.
That's
so
awesome.
It's just like, you need to see the personality to it.
Yeah, that's a great spot for that too. What's your TikTok and your Instagram now that we're talking about as we wrap up this podcast here? Because I want people to be able to find you when they listen to this.
Sure. I haven't made the TikTok yet. I'm assuming if the handle's not taken, it'll just be Palazzo de Pizza or Palazzo de Pizza Royal Oak. So that'll be TikTok. Instagram is Palazzo de Pizza Royal Oak.
And Facebook?
Facebook is Palazzo de Pizza. Just Palazzo de Pizza. We made the first Instagram handle thinking that I think Palazzo de Pizza was taken. I'm not sure where. I think it was like a place in like Brazil or something, which I really wanted it. But then I realized, hey, you know, if you end up having another location, you just, you know, Palazzo de Pizza Royal Oak. The next one can be Palazzo de Pizza Berkeley, whatever it ends up being. So
yeah, the handle doesn't really matter anyway. People just search your name in Instagram and you'll pop up regardless of what the handle is.
Yeah. If you're the top one, you'll pop up and you'll be on there. So if people want to come check us out, man, we do a pretty damn good job. I know I had this in the background. You know, we took the 50 top pizza thing. That was pretty cool this year, last year. So that was another wonderful thing. Yeah. So people want to come by and come stop by and see us. We're here, man. So we're in Royal Oak.
Yeah, we'll link up everything in the description for this video. Whether you're watching the video or listening to the podcast, just check the description. We'll link up your website, Instagram. You'll send me the TikTok when you get that set up. We'll add that in and everything in there.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's going to be soon. Thanks for pushing me to do that, man. Honestly, I think that was a lot from you. And listening to you, man, you do a good job at what you do, and I think you deserve a lot more credit than people give you. I think if everyone just spent a little bit of time listening and checking you out, I think it could benefit a lot of people.
Thank you. I appreciate that. My goal is to make every pizzeria have good pizza and be profitable. That's it. Like, if I can help every pizzeria do that, it's good for me. Then I don't have to go into shitty pizzerias anymore.
No shit, man. There's too many of them out there.
Yeah, that's right. Robert, don't go anywhere yet, but thank you so much as we wrap it up here. I appreciate you joining me on the podcast. It was great talking to you.
Thanks for having me, Bruce. I appreciate it, man. Best of luck to you always.
Thank you to Robert for joining me on the podcast. I really appreciate it. Thank you for watching to the How You Slice It podcast. So much information on this one. I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know what you think. Let us know in the description below whether you're listening to the audio version of the podcast or on YouTube. We want to hear from you. And if you need to get a hold of Robert and their team over there, we will link all of their information up in the description below this video. Hit like, hit subscribe, share this out, message me, do all of that great stuff. And we'll see you right back here next week on the How You Slice It podcast.